when you make a thing, you must make it for yourself. Yeah. The process of making art is very similar or the same to the process of designing something unique. You have to really, the most important thing is you have to be aware of what other people are doing and not do it. Yeah. Yeah. I think that the world and the world honors, as you say, audacity. If it's good audacity, yeah. There's also bad audacity.
With a good heart.
Yeah, and you look at it and go, oh, I don't know about that. So that's a very fine line between like good audacity and stuff that people just are horrified by.
We are here at the Fotografiska in Berlin.
Yes.
And our guest is Phil Toledano. He's a founder of Toledano Chan, co-founder.
Sure.
He's an artist, watch collector, car collector, Mr. something.
MisterEnthusiast.
MisterEnthusiast, okay, very nice.
Mr. Something.
Yes. It's a very nice Instagram account. I really like it. Because it's a nice mixture of cars and crazy stuff and watches, of course.
Yeah.
And what was your motivation to start Toledano Chan?
I find that when I fall into collecting something, I don't just want to be, I don't want to just eat the meal. I want to cook the meal. Mm-hmm. I want to make a thing. I want to contribute to the thing. And so I've been collecting watches for a while, and I've just wanted to express some version of my love for watches myself. And so I found Alfred and I met, and that's what we did. Mm-hmm. But that's why.
And the inspiration, was it wandering through New York and finding this window of Marcel Breuer building? It's now Sotheby's, right?
Yes, now Sotheby's. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't exactly like that. But when Alfred and I started talking, one of the things we started doing initially, right off the bat, was I had been collecting 70s Pateks for a while, integrated bracelet watches, and I felt that language had been abandoned. And it was a really interesting language because when you think about the watch as an integrated bracelet watch, it's a continuous concept. It's one idea. And when people design watches now, it's always just the head, right? And the dial. And I like the idea of this continuous concept design. So Alfred and I started talking, and we started ping-ponging back and forth images of brutalist architecture, because that's what we really love. And then we just kind of, I don't know if he sent it or I sent it. I mean, I don't know where it happened, but we looked at that and we said, this is an amazing shape for a watch.
And was it your first draft, this shape, or?
No, it was kind of this shape. I mean, we went back and forth. I can't draw really. So what I would do is I bought some clay and I would make little clay models of the head, and I would take a picture and send it to Alfred. And then he kind of, and he had his ideas and he extrapolated that from all those ideas. And the shape came out kind of as you see it now, but it was much chunkier. So our first prototype was super chunky, like it was almost like a superhero accessory. And it looked a little crazy. And I was like, okay, the idea is good, but it just has to be like, we have to calm it down a little bit.
But I like the process. You have something do something with your hand.
Yeah.
I guess it's a different perspective on the design approach, isn't it?
Yeah. And then we did a plastic prototype. And the bracelet was like in chunks of like plastic. So, it had tape it was kind of taped to my arm. So to see if like, okay, does this work? Is this interesting visually, aesthetically?
And was you surprised by the success?
Yeah.
Because it's very successful.
Yeah. Very surprised. I mean, the thing that I think this is critical, is that when you make a thing, you must make it for yourself. Yeah. And if you make it for other people, if in the process of creation, you allow other voices into that process, it will change the thing you make, and it won't be so pure. I'm not saying you shouldn't listen to people's advice, but it has to be your thing. So we made this thing for us because we really loved it, we really believed in it, and we had no idea. And look, I think there was a certain degree of luck for sure. I mean, when we started making that watch, it was, in 2021 or something, or 2020, I don't remember. But the landscape was very different. It was all Rolex steel sport watches. And then when we came out with the watch, the landscape had shifted. to like, people were suddenly open to the idea of a shaped watch. And also really, and this was incredibly lucky, 2 weeks after we came out, Audemars Piguet came out with that. You remember the master, whatever, that reinterpretation of the original watch.
Asymmetric.
The asymmetric thing. And what was funny was we were suddenly in the conversation with Audemars Piguet, like some no-name brand. Yeah. And then people were messaging me going, I can't believe like Audemars Piguet copied your idea. I would say, look, you know, I'm not sure a Swiss company can make a whole watch in 2 weeks, you know. So it was just, but it was luck. I mean, if our watch had come out 2 weeks after theirs, we would have been accused of copying their design.
Yes, and I think it's a little bit like making an art work, because you have to stick to your own perspective.
That's
and
right.
You have to do it for your own, and so it's a little bit similar to an artwork and
that's exactly
design.
right. I mean, funnily enough, it's very interesting you say that, because I found the process of making art is very similar or the same to the process of designing something unique. You have to really, the most important thing is you have to be aware of what other people are doing and not do it. And I find in horology, in the watch world, there's a lot of people eating off each other's plates. Just a little bit of, you know what I mean? There's a lot of that happening. And so there's a lot of sameness in the watch world. And there's a lot of like, oh, everything's a stone dial, which we did before it became everything was stone, or everything's a jump hour, or everything's a skeletonized movement, or you know what I mean, or everything's a luminescent dial. Yeah. You know, there's these waves of things that everyone seems to do.
And I think if you do brave things, it will be honored, I guess.
Well,
sometimes.
Well, no, you're right. I think that the world and the world honors, as you say, audacity. If it's good audacity, there's also bad audacity.
With a good heart.
Yeah, and you look at it and go, oh, I don't know about that. So that's a very fine line between like good audacity and stuff that people just go are horrified by.
Yes, of course. And I think your main advantage, from my perspective, is because it's an authentic brand, it's a authentic mission, and it is an authentic perspective, isn't it?
Sure.
And that's very important, because it's not a generic design from a big company. And I guess this will be for some friends of watches a very big difference, isn't it?
I think so. And I also think that the other thing about the watch landscape that's changed is that I think people realize that when they went to the sausage parties, the watch parties, the get-togethers, they realize that everyone's kind of wearing a lot of the same stuff. And I think there's a real urge now, a real desire to be wearing something that reflects you, not reflects other people. And that's what independent brands can offer, is they can offer you things that reflect you.
Yes. And I think we see a rise of the independent scene, isn't it?
I mean, it's been going for a while. Yeah. I'm certainly not the first one to the party.
Yeah. And what do you think, it's a question here on my notes, what do you think is your main advantage as an artist in a watch industry space?
It's, I think, the thing I was saying earlier. When you make art, when you're an artist, one of my primary instincts is I do not want to repeat other people's phrases. I want to make my own words. There's no point going, it takes the same amount of effort to make something unoriginal as it does to make something original. Yep. So why go to all the effort of making something unoriginal? Alfred and I have really kind of focused on this. We will not, it's hard in the watch world, because it's so tempting, because you can make something and it's going to sell, but you also know it's not that original. And so for me, to have my name on it, for Alfred to have his name on it, it's important that we satisfy our creative urges, that we push. It's an honor to make things. And when you make things, you should push the boundaries outwards, just a little bit, a millimeter or two.
Yeah. And I think you did it very perfect and successful. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I think I see this very personal perspective on the watch brand and car collection in your Instagram account.
Sure.
Yeah, I really like it. Yeah.
Thank you.
And do you feel the need to come up every year or every half of a year with a new idea?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
is it pressure for you?
I'm used to it. I mean, I used to work in advertising, so you had to come up with dozens of new ideas every day. And I'm also, and I think advertising actually was extraordinarily useful training, because what it taught me was to be creatively brutal. Because I think the thing about, and what you learn is that ideas are plentiful. You can have a lot of ideas, but you have to be brutal in terms of saying this one works. And as much as I like 70% of this one, the other 30% makes it not work and it has to die. And I think that for people who haven't had that training, every idea is precious. And so that's why I think often 70% ideas go through, make it into reality. Because people aren't brutal with their ideas.
Yeah, and I think similar to advertising, you have an artwork, some kind of artwork, and you have a market, you have a target group.
Sure.
Target group is a difficult word, but and you have to be bold to have a voice, isn't it?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And you also have to have a good client.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
which is most of the battle. Like sometimes you just can't. You're not interested.
And what do you think is the main part of the success of your watch? Is it the product, or is it the story and the people behind it? Or is it a mixture?
I mean, you'd probably have to ask the people who buy the watch. I mean, look, for me, it's the thing that we make. But I'm sure that, well, I don't want to make me sound like I'm Elvis.
Okay. Yeah.
But I think for instance with MB&F, I think people like Max, and they like the idea of Max, and they like buying a watch because it gives them a certain sort of proximity to genius, right? So, and I'm not saying I'm a genius or I'm Max or any of that stuff, but I'm sure there are people who follow MisterEnthusiast who kind of find me like, relatively interesting, and they like the idea of being connected in some way. I mean, that's kind of, that's why you buy art, right?
Yes, of course. And I think it's a mixture. It's a whole picture. It's a passion, your passion for watches, for unique stuff, and your product and your partner. And I think altogether it's unbeatable.
Well, hopefully.
Yes. And what is your main learnings about the Swiss watch business?
Well, I'll tell you what. When we were making watches in China, it was much quicker. And I actually think it's interesting, the whole Chinese thing. I think that China is kind of where when I was growing up in England in the 80s, things that were made in Japan were cheap. That's how you saw them. And then Sony showed up, and suddenly they were incredibly innovative, and you wanted stuff made in Japan. And that's going to happen to China. And all this stuff, it's Chinese made, that's all going to be bullshit. No one's. You see that with Fam Al Hood. No one cares that it's made in China because it's this amazing thing. So the Swiss is just slower, but I will say, at least at the moment, we've had a real jump in quality moving over. And I think that for watch people, look, in life, sadly, labels matter, right? And so for watch people, now at least, made in Switzerland matters. Or Germany. But Switzerland is, it's like, Yeah,
you can produce amazing quality in Hong Kong or China.
Sure.
You can Swiss-made produce in China is possible.
Yeah.
And what we see is a very rise of unique creativity. It's very important. Yeah. And what is the future for Toledano Chan? Cannot.
Well, no, I'm happy. I mean, well, look, the thing I think about the most for Toledano Chan is longevity. How do we remain interesting, relevant, audacious? How do we make things that continue to dazzle people? Because we're in a different lane than most watch companies, especially independent watch brands, are in a horsepower race. And by that I mean they are making incredibly complicated watches full of complications that no one needs, but it's horsepower, right? And it looks complicated. One of the trends is everything is skeletonized, floating subdials, it does this, it does that, it withstands this amount of G-force, all this kind of stuff. None of which you really need, but it is horsepower. And we are not in that race. We are in a design, aesthetic, we are in an art race. That's what we're making, that's what we're trying to make is art. So, it's going to take a while, and some people will just like the horsepower, and we will never be able to appeal to those people. They just want a 1,000 horsepower car. But we're hoping that we can convert some people to love art.
And what is your what are your clients? Are younger or older people? Is it or
I mean, kind of a mix of everything, you know. I mean, we've got some amazing collectors. We've got very high-end collectors. We've got, you know, younger guys who just want. I mean, the thing about this watch is that when you wear this watch, it gets. I mean, I get these emails constantly, and it gives me real joy. But mostly from older collectors who say, "Look," and they reel off like all these incredible watches they've got, like cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, Pateks and all this, you know, off-catalog Rolexes, this, that, the other. They say, when I wear the Toledano Chan, it's the watch I get the most. People stop me all the time, and that's so. It's a statement piece in a way, and that gives me great joy because also it makes people feel great. If you're wearing something, people go, "What's that?" You like that as a watch nerd. Everyone loves that.
yeah, you are part of a special club and a special kind of knowledge, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah. And do you think it will be at some point a gold version?
Oh, I mean, look.
Or maybe
No. It's funny because everyone, since we started, Alfred and I have been talking about a gold version. Of course, we keep seeing the price of gold increase and increase. But there will 100% be a gold version. It will be so expensive because it's so much gold in this watch to make it as a gold watch. But we would love to do one. We're going to do one because how can you not?
Yeah, yeah. It's very nice bracelet. It's very
Thank
nice.
you. Yeah, I mean, it's we spent a lot of time in engineering to get that right.
Yeah. Okay, let's shift for a second to watch collecting.
Sure.
What is your grail watch at the moment in terms of watch collecting? It's a difficult question.
I don't really have a grail watch, but I was just over at Max Bernardini's place in Milan. I had an opening there, and I was like, "Oh, I'll just go and see Max." And next thing you know, he just rolls out like these crazy, crazy watches, all of which are I'm like, "Oh my God, this is a grail." I mean, I don't really know the grail often until I see it because I like obscure stuff. So I bought a couple of watches for him that were sort of grail watches, but I didn't know they were grails until I saw them. Like one was I can't even remember the bloody name. It was a Rolex 4715 maybe, or 4713. It was made and they made very few in the mid-1940s. It's the first 3-counter Rolex and oyster case. So it's the grandfather of the Daytona, like the real. And so I'm really trying to collect like super rare, obscure Rolexes from the 40s. And I saw that, I was like, oh my God, I have to have that watch.
But isn't it difficult or odd situation if you buy your grail watch, then you will immediately have 2 new grail watches, isn't it?
But that's the way of collecting. I mean, there's no watch collector on the planet who doesn't like, that's the disease of watch collecting.
Okay.
You know, no matter how many grails you think you have, like the moment you have a thing you love, there's always another knock on the door, you know, and you open the door, oh, it's another grail. Hello.
There's no exit watch.
Yeah,
Really.
there is no exit watch. I mean,
Or maybe your watch.
no, not even, I mean, the exit watches that watch the bankruptcy and you have no money to buy the next one.
Yeah, that's a nice question. Did make your own watch shift your perspective on watch collecting or your taste in watch collecting, or not really?
I don't think so. Although in a weird way, I mean, I'll tell you, I've tried to buy modern watches and I find it really, I can't really do it. Like every time I buy a modern watch, modern-ish. Although actually, no, that's not true. I really like modern watches made now. I can't really wear, but I've started buying some watches from the 90s. I bought a Royal Oak offshore triple calendar.
It's a great watch, isn't it?
It's a 38 mil.
Ah, okay.
It's one of the very early ones.
Ah, okay.
It's a gold one, but it's on a strap. And they only made, I think, 76 of them. But I don't know, like I kind of like that idea. But no, it hasn't really changed my collecting. Sorry, that was a very rambly answer.
Yeah, no, fine. Okay, let's switch to the art world because it's the time.
Sure.
You're opening tonight in Fotografiska in Berlin exhibition. What kind of exhibition is it?
So I'm a conceptual artist. So all my work is based around a very specific idea. So about 4 years ago when I started working with AI, it became very apparent to me that our relationship with the photograph as truth was gone
Yes.
forever. And because AI exists, everything is true and nothing is true at the same time. So I started doing these projects. I was inventing history. So I did a book called Another America, which is an invented history of the 1940s New York. Then I did a book about the Second World War. Then I did a book about England in the 1980s. And for this project, I thought I would expand this lie outwards. Because until now, in my AI work, has been me, the artist, making work with AI, and everyone is aware that it's untrue. But I thought I'm going to involve myself in this deceit. So the work I'm showing today, and no one knows this, the museum knows this, is this story that my father was an artist, but the story is, after he died, I found a box of negatives, the pictures he had taken in the 1940s. And this is a show of his work. But it's all a lie. Because I think that we have to get used to the idea of how deceit is packaged in terms of, now when we look at the news, when we listen to the government, deceit is so well packaged. It's not just an image that arrives randomly that's fake. It's a story that accompanies that image that's also fake. So it's kind of about the packaging of deceit. And also it's about photography in the sense that, like, one of the reasons we love photography is because someone saw it. So if you go in and you look at these images, like, these are amazing images, and you think someone saw them, that makes them kind of even more amazing. But then if you take away that fiction, that no one ever saw these images happen, does it make them less interesting? Does it make them less powerful?
And will you keep this mystery, or is it?
It's going to be revealed. I'm going to reveal it tonight.
Okay, yeah.
When's this running?
Next week.
Okay, perfect.
How did your artist work changed AI and I in the opposite? Is it a tool for you, or is it a new perspective, or is it a totally new category?
It's an incredible tool. I mean, what's incredibly exciting for me with AI is it will go as far as you want to go. So the limit is in your head. There are no mechanical limitations. There are no financial limitations. Because to do the things I'm doing with AI, I could never have done before, because you'd have to have so much money to create such a believable world so deeply. So it's incredibly exciting for me. I mean, I know that it's interesting because since I've been working with AI, I've been on the receiving end of a lot of hate mail.
Okay.
And the sad thing is that in 2 or 3 years' time, no one will care. You know, it's like when iPhone photography came out, people said it was terrible. When color photography started happening, people said it was never going to be real art photography. When Photoshop happened, people were outraged by that.
And I think the main part of AI, in my perspective, is not the aesthetic point, more this disruptive event of truth. Because you cannot, even I as a professional photographer, I cannot say, is it AI or is it not?
Well, this is interesting because you're quite right. And when I first started working with it 3 or 4 years ago, the great social barometer that is Instagram comments, what I see now is all the time you see, is this AI, is this real? 3 years ago, I never saw that. So now we are in this permanent, it's a Schrodinger's cat situation. We are in this permanent state of imbalance. And I personally think that's forever. Like, we have to, and so it's sad in a way that we've lost. Like, if you look at the James Nachtwey exhibition upstairs,
it's a great exhibition,
extraordinary. But I look at it and they're incredible. But I also wonder if the age of a powerful photograph changing the world is over, because even if it's an incredible photograph, there'll always be people, if this image doesn't align with their political interests, they will then say, this is fake. You know what I mean? So I think that 10 years ago, even if it didn't align with your political interests, you'd have to acknowledge the reality of the image. And that's gone now.
And if the picture is too nice, it's too impactful, maybe some will say it's AI.
That's
even
right.
It's an original
that's
picture.
Right. Oh, that's what I'm saying. 100%. Like, there's always going to be people, if they don't like what the image is saying, they will say it's fake.
And what do you think will the art world or the AI art world be in 5 or 10 years?
I don't
It's
know.
very difficult.
Well, it's funny, like that story I was just saying, we have no idea where the technology is going. We have no clue. I mean, a lot of people are afraid of it, but we just don't know. I mean, there could be advances in science and medical advances, extraordinary things. We have no idea what's happening. I mean, what I will say is that I'm pretty certain, if not now, there will be an AI bot that will make its own art, and that art will be amazing.
Yeah.
Like that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And then there'll be human artists competing with robot artists, and that's going to be super interesting.
Yeah. Maybe made by a gallery owner in New York City.
Sure. Yeah, and then who owns the art? Because if that AI,
yes.
if it's AGI, if it has its own consciousness, does it have rights to own the art?
Yeah, of course, that's true. And I think the art world is getting more and more AI and more artificial, maybe, and so is making a watch the total opposite.
Well, I mean, it would be if we were Roger Smith, over the bench and making it, but we're not making it ourselves. We are designing things. We are making, this watch is not a watch you buy if you love, like I said, like if you're into the horsepower, this is an art watch, not a horology watch. Yeah, I mean, will there be, if you think about photography in the 1850s, right? All the painters hated it. And all the stuff that the philosophers and painters said about photography, said, well, it's never going to have emotion because a machine is making the image, which is the same things photographers now say about AI. But if you also think about, I imagine that photography suddenly, here was this technology that could make landscape painting perfectly, better than a painter could, right? So guess what happened in the 19th century? Impressionism.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It was a thing that photography couldn't do really at the time. So that I wonder if that came out of photography. So maybe AI will generate its own counterforce that will be really interesting.
Yes, that's true. Yeah. And I think in my world, it's not so important if you are making the movement or if you make the design. It's equal important. You have a unique idea,
that's right,
and you will bring them to life into the world. And it's the same with the AI painting or AI photography.
Don't call it photography.
No,
it's an image because it's not photography.
Yes.
It's actually very interesting because
important point.
The creative process for AI and creative process for making a photograph opposite. It could not be more opposite. Because when you take a photograph, I've been taking photographs for 40 years. So every time I take a photograph, all I have is it's all a collection of reflexes and habits. I see the light, I see the shadow, but I've seen those millions of times before. My brain, my unconscious is doing the computations. I understand the subject in front of me. I understand moving this way, how it changes, all that stuff, right? But when you're making with AI, every single decision is conscious. You have to be deeply awake. So you have to think about the light, the weather, the time of day, the emotion, the ethnicity, what's in the foreground, the structure, the physical structure of the image, like the architectural structure of the image.
And it's so easy to overdone it, to make too much.
Sure.
And you will see it looks weird, or it looks,
the reason when people talk about AI slop, right, particularly in the States, the reason why, well, there's two things. One is no one ever talks about iPhone slop, right, which is everywhere, because we're used to it. But with AI slop, we're not used to it, so it sticks out. But the reason is because most people who use AI aren't photographers.
Yeah.
So they're using in quotes the default filter, the default look. So that's why you recognize it as AI. But if you are a photographer and you're a good photographer, then you understand all the dynamics of an extraordinary image, and then you can make something that doesn't look like that.
Yeah, and I think it's similar to watch design. If you overdone it with skeletonized and tourbillon and minute repeater and all the nice stuff, I guess in my terms, it's sometimes too much.
I agree.
And I like some kind of minimalism.
Sure.
And it's very needed sometimes.
Well, you can tell, and your watch is very restrained. But it's true. I mean, I think there's a real kind of, because we're in this horsepower race, I think there's a real almost desperation to like keep adding more and more, ingredients to the soup. And sometimes you just need 2 or 3 ingredients for the soup to be delicious.
Yeah, it will live side by side. It's very important that we have some kind of diversification, a big range, and so it's very nice. Yeah. Okay, so thank you for your time.
That was a great conversation, man.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Great questions.
Thank you, and have a nice time in Berlin.
Thank you so much, man. Well, I'm leaving tomorrow, so.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, man. I really enjoyed that.